Alright, hello and welcome to Let's Play with the Designer. This is Fourtex Jugo. I'm Lauren. I'm one of the development team at Salty Dog Digital. I'm also the primary architect of most of the mechanics in Fourtex Jugo, and I design the campaign levels. Alright, let's play. This is the level that I typically play anytime I have a chance to play the game, and I still do play it. It's actually one of my favorite games. I'm choosing this level because with it, I can very quickly show you just about everything there is to see. Let me pause it here. Okay, so first thing is I'm going to turn this down a little bit. Alright. So I'm going to be explaining quite a few things, but for now I'm going to say that with one exception, you're looking at every single playing piece you'll ever encounter in the game. You see you have some number particles. These with the 3-part symbol inside are pi particles. This is a nom, N-O-M, stands for nominal particle. And I'm going to make the other counterpart to that, which is a black one. Think of that as something like a little solar system symbol. So in this game, which is technically a matching game, you can combine these 3 kinds of particles with each other and only with each other, following certain simple rules, with the ultimate objective being to create these voids. And then, well, let's back up now and start all over, and we'll come back to this level and see if it looks any different when we're done. When you get the game or the demo that we have out, probably the first thing you'll see when you hit the play button is this level, the title over here on the right, purple haze, followed by a score in blue, which is the target score. This level has a tutorial in it, and I advise you to play through that tutorial. It's not going to take you to victory in the game, but we'll explain almost all the mechanics except for what I call the shape rule, and I'll be covering that pretty soon. In this game, you can look at each of these levels as a universe. Each universe is built from the exact same stuff or a subset of that stuff, and it follows the exact same rules, but depending on the initial layout and the way the fill works, it may behave in different ways to give a different experience. One thing I do want to point out on this level is the fill on this level. When I make a move in this game, which involves matches of 2, or what I call combinations of 2 particles, usually, if it's 2 particles, that makes there be 1 less because I put 2 together and get a new particle. And then the new particle comes into the board, and in this case, this is what I call a common fill. So there's a set of particles waiting to come onto the board, and it's going to come, they'll come in order, and the order and where they come in depends on exactly how I make the moves. So let me now skip to a level that's going to make it a little easier for me to describe everything that I want to talk about. In keeping with what I was just explaining about the fill, this is the exact opposite. In this case, every row and column of fill is assigned its own set or pool of fill particles. And so when I say each level is like a universe to explore, this is one of the things to explore, is the fill pattern. All right, here's the restart button. It's your friend. Fourtex Jugo is called that because of this board. So Fourtex Zen and Fourtex Jugo. This is the Fourtex board, a very clever mechanic thought up by a couple other members of the team. And when we finished up Zen, I thought, well, this board could make for something other than a casual game, a match 4 game. It could make a pretty good strategy game. And I want to explain these board mechanics to you now. So first of all, this is a center gravity fill system. Fill particles come in here on the very edges of each wing. So in this case we see 4s all the way around. The rest of the board is the play area, and so that kind of tells you what are legal moves from the board perspective. So any moves inside these 16 squares will work because you can pull stuff in. And if you can make a legal move to the adjoining row or column, you can do that in either direction because you can still have a fill happen. All right, in a typical match game, you make a move and any new particles that need to come in to fill empty places come from the top like that. In a center gravity fill system, if I make a move from east to west, then the fill comes from the east, and if I move south to north, the fill comes from the south, etc. Okay, the remaining mechanic of the board itself involves these darkened tiles you see here. Basically, this is the level completion mechanic, and what happens is the very first time a combination is made on a particular tile, that tile darkens. Now that darkness doesn't move around, that's fixed. And the idea is this is a visual indicator of whether you made matches on all of the visible 16 central tiles. And as soon as you have done that, the level will end. Your turn will be over, and if Jugo has a turn, Jugo takes that turn, and then the game is over. If Jugo doesn't have a turn, the game is over. Alright, so that's the board, and now what I want to do is explain to you the idea, the vision I had in mind while I was developing this game. So I asked you to consider this entire board here as some kind of a chamber. Consider it part of something like a particle accelerator, what they used to call an atom smasher. And in this atom smasher, we have 3 different kinds of things that we can smash together. We can smash each thing only with a similar thing. And now let's explore all the rules of smashing things together. So, number particles. Looks like we can combine the same number particle. And when we do, we get the next higher number. Alright, I think that's pretty clear. So, if I was playing this for the first time, I might just keep doing this. I want to see what's going to happen. So we see a sequence of numbers. Now something's different. We go up to 14, and it looks like now we start to descend. again. And that's, in fact, what happens. So, it turns out 14 is the highest possible number particle. What happens when we combine two of those? Well, we're going to get the second kind of particle. Let's see that. It's a pi. And I'll explain why it's called a pi in a little bit. Now, you see we've made quite a few moves. We haven't scored very many points. When I was developing this, it seemed to me that it was a bit tedious to make these pies, and you do have to make them if you don't already have some. So I made up a shortcut, and also got the name of the game from this. So 14 and 14. Let me see if I want to make one for you. Oh, here we go. We got some 14s. 14 and 14 would make 15, and in Japanese, the words Jugo, I think if I'm pronouncing it somewhat correctly, literally translates as 10-5, but it's how they say 15. That's where the name of the game comes from. 15, something happens, and instead of a number, we get something else, and we get a pi. So what I'd like to do is make the third remaining pi for you. Here will be the yellow pie, I call it lemon pie. You see, each of these pies has the same symbol inside, so we know we can always combine things that are the same according to rules. The rule for pies is a lot simpler than the rule for numbers. Any two pies will combine, and the idea is that, let me see if I can make this happen here. All right, we'll get the third and final kind of particle when we do that. The rule is very simple, and if we combine two of the same pies, such as these two red ones, we'll get the white. If we combine any two different pies, we'll get a black one. All right. So that's all of the particles. The rule for these nominal particles is even simpler. Opposites combine. That's it. And that makes a void. We've come full circle. So again, considering this whole thing to be some kind of atom smasher, we've gone through our numbered elements. We've finally been able to smash those together to get some very basic, something like subatomic particles. And and those subatomic particles can be smashed together to make the very, very basic kind of duality type particles. You can think of this as yin-yang or binary 0 and 1, on, off, day, night, something like that. As simple as it gets, and then we combine those very simple ultra subatomic particles together and we get some void. And if we were to assign I'm now explaining the pi concept, if we consider this void as 0 and the 14 numbered particles as a system of numbers, we have 0 through 14, which is 15 numbers. And so if we were to combine numbers that should make 15, that would be the 16th number. All right, so I'm one of those people who knows a tiny little bit about a lot of stuff, and I happen to know that the 16th letter of the Greek alphabet is pi, P-I. These are P-I-E, pies, but P-I, pi, is the 16th letter of the Greek alphabet, and the mathematical quantity pi is considered to be a transcendental number. And even though I don't know exactly what that means. It sounded like a pretty cool thing to call these pies. Now, this claw is basically the final element of the game. It's what lives in what you might now start to think of as some kind of a hyperspatial doorway. And it's the way that the what we call the Jugo entity can interact with you as you play through these little claws, which happen to like transcendental particles and noms quite a bit, and will try to grab them away from you if they can. Here I'm going to get this particle safely away from this claw, which is ready to grab after my next turn. Excuse me. Okay, so that's gone, and now the claw is coming down here. If it has to move, it can't grab on that same turn. If it must move before grabbing a target particle, then it can't grab. So I'll show you how I can save this pie once. I can save it one more time. And unfortunately now I cannot get it away. So if I allowed the claw to grab the pie, that's called a grab. It's not really a good thing, and typically it's just a sign that you're not paying much attention. The score over here, it says Jugo's score by the little claw would increment. I would lose points. A better thing to do typically is what's called a sacrifice, which is where I actually just give any particle, including the ones Jugo doesn't like. The claws don't like numbers, but I can give a number to the claw and it will go away. That also costs me points, but it introduces an important aspect of this game, which is that you can play it two different ways. If you're trying to play for a high score, you might want to do the sacrifice, and you usually have to get the theoretical maximum high score for any level. If you are trying for what I view as a more pure play, that means you want to get the target score without having any kind of interaction with the void. And that's usually harder to do. Let's see where I'm going here. All right. So you see on the sacrifice that I made earlier, that cost me 150,000, but here I've made some moves, scoring some points along the way, and now I'm going to get another 150,000 back. So that's how I can leverage up a higher score by playing that way. The original idea behind the 1-star level is that somebody who had some difficulty playing for the target score could play the game more casually. And so in fact what we do is give 1 star if you are managing to successfully complete the level, such as this move here would do. So that's a 1 star because I didn't get this target score. All right. Fourtex Jugo was not designed to be a disposable puzzle game. It was more of a game framework, like the Sudoku and Killer Sudoku, that kind of inspired me to make this game, which I was hoping would have a little bit more balance in that I could bring both hemispheres into play. The math puzzles, not only is it constant math, but it seemed just very exclusively what for most people is left brain analytical. The idea behind Fourtex Jugo was a set of what I think is a reasonable number of mechanics that would virtually force the intuitive mind to help out by taking a holistic view of the whole puzzle. so that once the initial mechanics were relatively familiar to somebody, they could make moves fairly naturally, fairly rapidly, fairly intuitively, and have a challenging puzzle game. So this level I play is one of the 3 dailies that reset their layout slightly every 24 hours. It's typically extremely difficult because when I'm playing a puzzle game, that's what I like. So it looks like I'm actually doing pretty well here, somewhat surprisingly. I'm not really very good at thinking while I speak. I'm going to be extremely surprised if I can keep this up. I have a bit of a problem with these claws. I'm not sure I'm going to be able to get that piece away. I can get okay, this one's getting pretty hot or excited, depending how you look at it. Yeah, so here I am, and typically if I were playing through this for the first time, this is where I would probably decide to keep going because I've actually done pretty well. And I would see if I could go ahead and get a 2-star win, so I would make a move such as that. And make another. Okay. So there's no reason to allow this grab to happen, but I can't remember if I showed you a grab or not, so I'll just let that. All right. On Claw's turn, if it has a piece to grab, it grabs. And what I will try now is keep on going. Okay, that's pretty fortunate. And so I have another grab, and I'm not really wanting that anymore, so. I was actually just intending to show you the recording I made of the game I played earlier. And in fact, it looks like it's probably time to do that. So again, this one very, very difficult. Before I show you that recording, let me show you. Well, here's the, this is the very easy one of the 3 dailies. So we have something for everyone. If you're something like a casual puzzle person, you can take a few minutes to play this one. And then the other is a usually medium, sometimes medium hard level. This is one of what I consider the casual levels. Doesn't mean easy, it means that the set of mechanics you deal with at first is relatively constrained. You got some numbers, mostly numbers in the fill, and the challenge on these levels is maintaining focus and concentration to avoid running out of moves. So back to the level I like. And now I'm going to show you by going to the leaderboards that I did in fact get a nice 2-star win on this level. This little widget here allows me to check and see if maybe I or someone else got 3 stars. It's just a way to preserve the highest 2-star, well, the highest 3-star win, even if there's a higher 2-star win, because of the qualitative difference in the two ways of playing, 2 stars, 3 stars. So we try to keep both scores. Over here, if this is clickables, it should be if the internet was happy when I finished my game. I load this game up, and this is the game I played earlier. And so I'll just, as I'm finishing everything up, let you watch this level played to 3 stars. And I'm going to speed it up a little bit because I'm running a bit long on this. Hit this plus thing, make it go a little faster. You can look at other people's games. So for instance, if you're really stuck on some level and somebody else has played it successfully, you can just go to the leaderboards and click on their game to see how they got through some portion of it. All right, so again, I invite you, assuming you find anything interesting about this, to find our demo and check that out, or go ahead and get the game and explore it a little bit. And if so, I hope you enjoy all the different kinds of puzzles that are in it, and I hope to see you on the leaderboards. And thank you for watching Fourtex Jugo.